friends, welcome back to another Step It Up Stamping. I'm Barb Brimhall, and in this video we'll take one very simple card and step it up by adding more layers, maybe some die cuts, some other things, so that you can find a card that will work for wherever you're at in your card making journey. Today we are using the Stitched Stocking Bundle. I love this bundle. It looks like a quilt to me. And what I'm going to show you today is how to use this set, not for Christmas, but for something else. And I am pairing it with the Bloom Boutique Specialty Designer Series paper, which I think lends itself really well to the card that we're making today. So we're going to start out with what I like to call the Busy Bee card. This is for those of us that are in a hurry, or if you are a beginner card maker. This is a very simple sketch and pretty easy to do. Now, before we start, I want to take you back to the stamp set. See where this says Sending Warm Wishes? I wanted to use a sentiment from this bundle, but as you could see, they're mostly Christmas. So what we're going to use is this one right here, which says Sending Warm Wishes for a Merry Christmas, and we're going to get rid of this last line. Now I do have complete instructions for you, so if this is something that you might feel like you need a little bit of help with in terms of measurements or step-by-step instructions, make sure you check that out in the link below. But what I did is I took the stamp, I took a piece of tape, and I just put that tape over the bottom part of this sentiment. Then I inked it up, in this case with Peaceful Pine ink, pulled off the tape, and then stamped it down. And that very easily allows you to use just parts of a sentiment that you wanted. So very easy to do. Just don't forget to take off the tape, because then you would have a great big smudge of ink right here. So you might want to practice a few times, but it's pretty simple. And I'm starting out with Petal Pink cardstock. This is one of my favorite colors. Definitely not Christmassy, but a very pretty color. And I am pairing it with Peaceful Pine because that's part of the color that comes in the Bloom Boutique paper. If I pull this up, you could see the little petal pink inside each one of those white flowers. So all I did was I cut cardstock into 4 squares, put it on a bigger square of basic white, turned it diagonally, and put a bow in the middle so you can't really see where all those pieces of cardstock come together. And there you have it. A very quick and easy card. And I can't remember, it's on the instructions. I think this is 1.5 inch squares. So you just, what I did is I made it a square first, just lined up all 4 of these squares. And then when I put it on the card, I turned it into a diamond shape. Much easier than it looks, I promise you. Very simple. Now let's bring in our worker bee card. This is for when you want to do a little bit more work on your card. This one looks very difficult, but it's actually not that hard. I am going to pull it up so you could see. Do you see where the papers come together here? So what I did is I just cut 4 squares, cut them on the diagonal so that it made triangles, and then just glued them down. I show you in the instructions where you glue these all together, so it makes it pretty easy. But I did the sentiment the same way, and this time I brought in a full piece of white, a 4 by 5.25 piece of white, just to add a little bit more dimension to this card. But this looks really difficult, and when you first look at it, it kind of is, because you have to see where these papers come together. But on the instructions, I show you just how you do that. So it's not as hard as it seems. And then I also added, again, more of the white baker's twine. So it's just figuring out how that all comes together. And the diagram I have in the instructions for you actually make that pretty simple. So let's now bring in our Queen Bee card. Usually my Queen Bee cards are a little bit more difficult. This one really isn't. The major difference, let me get this out of the way. Well, actually, let me show you. You can see I have a full mat of white here. Here I die cut a circle, and the circle I used was from the Spotlight on Nature. Makes that little plate design. I always say that looks like a paper plate to me. And then I used the Stitched Stocking dies to do this. Let me show you where this is. If you look on the bundle, see on the right the stocking and then the kind of rectangle that goes on top of your stocking. That's what I used for this. And again, I just did my sentiment the same way I did it before. Sorry, I untied the bow when I brought this in. And then I put another mat. You can see right here, another mat of the petal pink. And the major difference on this card is all the die cutting. And I'm going to hold this up. Can you see how all those triangles have stitches? That is done by the dies, because the dies here have the stitching in them. And I know you can't see it very well here, but it's very easy for you to use. And then we did one in the middle here. Sorry, I keep going the wrong way. And I added a couple things to this one, which I think really just steps it up a little bit. I added in the white baker's twine, but this time what I did is I held the twine down in an ink pad, crisp cantaloupe, and just colored the twine. You have to set it aside for a few minutes to let it dry, but it went from doing white baker's twine to crisp cantaloupe baker's twine. I think that adds a nice little bit of interest, especially with the sentiment on the right side here. And then the other thing I added right here were the 2006, 2008 in color dots, in this case, crisp cantaloupe, same color that I used to dye the white baker's twine. But I think what really sets us apart is all the die cutting. So like the Spotlight on Nature dies, the Stitched Stocking dies used for here, and then all these little triangles, and then the centerpiece. So it looks hard, but it's actually super easy because the dies do all your work. So if I bring this back in, this is our queen bee. This is our supposedly more difficult one, but I think these dies are easier to lay down to make a pattern. They're a little bit smaller than what I cut here. So this is a bigger star. These are just the dies. Just run it through your cut and emboss machine. So for a super simple card, we've got our Busy Bee card, which is really easy to do. You just cut squares. You don't worry about the triangles and lining everything up, and it makes it super, super easy. So there you have it, my friends. A pretty easy card that looks difficult, and you have to get your layering of the triangles down right for the worker bee card and the queen bee card, but I have instructions for you that should make that a lot easier for you. And I will say, after you've made the first one, the rest are simple. So this just takes a little bit of work to figure out how you want to lay those triangles down. So okay, I hope you've enjoyed today's card. I really wanted to show you a way to use a Christmas set in a totally different way, and this set really lends itself to doing that because it's more of a quilting pattern. And of course, if you don't want to use a sentiment from the Stitched Stocking set, this could be great for happy birthday. It'd make a great baby card. I think you could do a lot with this. Okay? All right, my friends, thank you for joining me today for another Step It Up Stamping. I'll see you next week. Bye.